All right, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our October tag. We are super lucky to have Playfair Data with us. We have Maggie and Ethan and some of the other team on the call today. And we'll go ahead and jump right in. So our agenda, we have our quick introduction. We'll run through the two presentations. So Maggie has a visual way to filter data, and then Ethan is going to be showing us some YouTube data. After that, of course, we'll have our community announcements, and then we have some job postings that are based in the Central Florida, Orlando area that we want to share with you all. And sorry about that doorbell noise. We're practicing for Halloween. We can't turn it off, so we're doing our best. Our mission, of course, follows Tableau's overall mission. It's to help people see and understand data. We focus on those in Central Florida or in the Orlando area. Of course, with the pandemic, we are virtual, so welcome to anybody and everybody from wherever you are. Feel free to share in the chat where you're joining us from, and we hope you come back next month. And then our leadership team is on the screen. Most of you are familiar with us. If you want to help out at all, if you need to get in contact with us, if you want to speak, if you want to help plan things, if you have ideas or feedback, please reach out at our email address. And if you want to join, let us know. There's lots of opportunities to get involved. And let's jump in. So first up, we'll have Maggie. Maggie Muellner. She is a visual analytics associate at Playfair. She's located north of Orlando, but in the Orlando area, whereas Ethan's joining us from Kansas City today. Both of them are super involved in the Tableau community. Maggie is a Tableau student ambassador, which is an awesome recognition from the greater Tableau community. And then Ethan helps lead the Veterans Advocacy Tug. So you might have seen this get a little bit more traction lately online. It's for those around the military or that have served or in their family of them or friends or anything like that. So it's another really good opportunity to meet others, grow your skills. And Maggie, I'll go ahead and let you take over if you're ready.
Of course, let me share my screen.
Thank you.
Now I got the error warning. You cannot start screen share while the other participant. Oh, there you go. I think that fixed it.
Passing it over.
Perfect. Thank you. Well, also, thank you for everybody who joins. This is my first ever user group that I speak to, so I'm a little bit nervous, so bear with me. But as Katie already said, I'm a visual analytics associate for Playfair, a Tableau student ambassador for 2021-2022, which also means that I am still in school. So I started my data journey at the end of my undergrad degree, which was in business management, and then an IT related field with business computer science, which still is going on. I'm surviving, and I'll finish that up next year. I was born and raised in Austria, so if you can hear a little bit of an accent, that is not the US. That's from there. It's the country that does not have kangaroos. We're Germany's little neighbor, and I am an absolute dog person. If you joined a little early, you might have heard me say that I steal my in-laws' dogs on a regular basis, but absolutely love them. Can't wait to have some on my own. And then I'm a Florida local, so I actually enjoy the warm weather. Fall is starting to be my favorite season of all time because it's not that blasting hot anymore. But I absolutely enjoy Florida. But to the topic, I wanted to present a visual way of filters. It is actually based on a blog that I wrote a couple months back to talk about alternative ways to filter. And realizing that when I went through it, that it is really not only an alternative way, it is a more visual and interactive way for people to interact with your parameters or even sets. So this is what I use on a daily basis. So that's what I wanted to show you guys. And I'm going to start with the first one, which are control sheets and an all overwrite. So why I'm using that instead of filters is I prefer parameters for most of my day-to-day and Tableau engineering, simply because I can use those parameters a little bit more flexible. I can use different data sources with it, connected with it. I don't need to worry about blending necessarily all the data sources. I can use them in my calculations, especially if you are looking into more complex calculations with LODs. Parameters are really awesome with that. And then also, it is a little bit of a personal preference in comparison to filters. But I know that filters have a lot of the benefits, like you can make them only show the relevant values to your selections. You have that all possibility. So what I would like to go through is how you can overcome those benefits for a filter and adopt them for a parameter. So the example I came up with, so I'm going to start with an empty one, is we're just going to look at an empty sheet. And for that sheet, I'm just going to call that line chart. I'm going to call that control sheet. For that line chart, I'm going to look at subcategories and use those subcategories from the sample superstore data set as my filters. So I'm going to do and create a parameter for subcategory 1, because I already made one before to practice. Change that to be string and import that list from the sample superstore data directly, and put subcategory here. Now, when I do that, already to prepare for the all override, I'm gonna add all as a value in that parameter. So having that, I then need to create a filter. That filter is going to be a very simple calculation. Category filter 1, where we just call it the p dot subcategory parameter equals subcategory, or the subcategory parameter equals all. So this allows me in the end to overwrite that all outside of the subcategory. So creating that. And then for one more thing, I do want to show the line chart, but I want to see the difference of maybe the whole category to what I select within the subcategory. So I'm also going to create another calculated field that is parsing that out. So that would be sales for subcategory 1. And that would be a simple if my subcategory filter equals true, then I say sales. If not, I do null. So having all of these now, I'm perfectly prepared to drag everything I need for my line chart onto the shelf. I'll start with order date on my columns and make that a continuous month of order date, and then drag sales as well as my sales for subcategory calculation to it. Let me see if I can get rid of this. Making this a dual axis combination chart and synchronizing the axes. Now, I want to look at the category technology in specific, just to drill down a little bit of my set of my parameter choices. So I'll do that, and I see when I show this, I'm currently on accessories, and it would make this much of a profit. So I'm gonna hide this one. I'll keep this for now. Now we can play around with the colors, but I'll just keep it this way for now as well. I'm fine with that. And then I will create the control sheet that is going to overwrite the parameter next. So I'll open up a new sheet, type in control sheet, and I'm dragging my subcategory onto rows as well as on the text marks card, and then put the same category filter on technology that I had before. I'm gonna hide my header and make this a little bigger so we can see it. And then also drag the subcategory filter onto the color mark so I can actually see what is currently selected. I need to do the other one because I haven't done that one. All right. So I'm going to play around a little bit with the formatting, but not too much. Getting rid of the backgrounds and getting rid of the row banding, as well as centralizing these and getting rid of any row dividers just to make it a little bit cleaner. And that already gives me the first stuff I need for my control sheet setup. So let me find this and start dragging my elements on the dashboard. So, let me find the correct one. Enter done. There. So making this a little big so that we can see. Getting rid of this and keeping this for now to just show how it works in the end. I am also going to get rid of this background real quick and get rid of the header. And then starting with a vertical container to show my show hide, to be able to hide and see my context filter whenever I want it to. So I'm going to add the show hide button, place that on top, and actually map a image to it, which I already prepared. I got those saved out. I'm gonna have the show filter and then the hide filter button. And then making those a little bit bigger. So in that vertical container, I can then drag my control sheet, hiding the title and making it a little bit prettier as well. Doesn't need that much space. And then giving this an entire view. So this is already the first step to get that context filter going, or control sheet overwrite for the parameter, let's say like that, to have a nicer way to drill down in my sheet. Now to make that working, I would need to create a dashboard action, which for this one, I just need to change these as I had these set up beforehand, but it will just drag from my control sheet one that I created to my parameter subcategory one, and it's going to take the field subcategory to override, and then you can see the data changing on the bottom already based on my selection. So now my only problem is I don't have all yet. So for all, I'm creating another sheet, which I usually just call all overwrite. And I'm just going to do all as a string, put that on detail, and change this to a shape. This shape can really be anything from a all button that you guys created yourself to just a normal square where you can drag then all on the label and centralize it as well, and just play around with this a little bit. Really, you have a lot of freedom there. I'm usually getting rid of the tooltips as well and making this just as big as I can. And then using this all override in my sheet. Indeed, there. Dragging the all override as well into the container, hiding title, of course, and then fitting the entire view. And of course, I need to set up the action as well for the all override. So I'm gonna take my all override that I just created, let it run on the subcategory parameter and define my all string to be the override. So now when I click this, it will match 100% the line that it is drawing otherwise. And that's basically it. So now I can get rid of those old school looking Excel developer type of parameters. Don't need those anymore. They're now reacting to exactly what I want them to react to. and I can show and hide them however much I want. So that's my first type. And then another one that I found recently really, really helpful is to work with set actions. For set actions, it's nice because instead of with the parameter where you can only select one at a time, set actions actually allow you to have multiple selections at one time. And if you have visited the Floorledge twins recently, they actually also wrote a blog on how you can use set actions as an and or filter instead of only an and, or instead of only an or. Really good blog, would very much recommend reading that one too. But gonna do a pretty similar example in terms of what we're gonna create, just a different way of showing it. So I'm gonna create a line chart again, and just calling this line chart set action. But instead of what I did before, I'm gonna create a category set out of this. Create set, keep that on set 2, just click all and keep that for now. Then similar to the calculation we did before where we used the subcategory filter, I'm going to now use the subcategory or the category set as part of it. So I'm creating another calculated field that is reacting to that category set, which I'm just going to call category set sales. Using an if again, using my set and setting that to true. If it is true, then show me sales. If null, show me null. That is valid. Okay, using that. I'll then drag the order date again on the view. Put the same month and do a dual axis combination chart again, but now with my category sales. And then also showing my set at the side so I can show you guys how it is reacting. Changing this again to a dual axis, of course synchronizing it and then getting rid of this header. And then once I click away from these, you'll see the difference between, so the first bar will show again the whole category and the other ones, or the sum of all categories, and then my set calculation below is reacting to my choice. This is pretty much it for the line chart. Gonna drag that already onto the view. Just need to find my empty set action and find my line chart set action here. Cleaning this up in a second a little bit. To just make it a little bit more visually appealing. And I'm gonna leave this for now on the view as well. So I could keep this as is without any problems. I'm just not a really big fan of these selectors that you can put on either side. For me, they do look very old school. I like it to be a little bit more visual. So what I'm gonna do is I created buttons for all 3 of these in an active and inactive state. So furniture, office supplies, and technology. These buttons will overwrite my set action. For that, you will need to create an additional calculation that allows you to map those to buttons. So it's a basic calculated field, and I'll call those set action buttons. But what you will do is you create a string out of your category set, and then create plus, make a little bit of space, and match that with your category. What this will give you is a true or false plus your category name, and that will help you map it better to your shapes. going to drag category onto columns, and then my category set action button onto details real quick before I change this to shape, and then drag it to shapes. To show what it is doing, I'll also show the set on the side. Right now, only technology is selected, so I have a false furniture, false office supplies, but true technology. So I'll map those. I imported already my visuals with the shapes repository, and then this is super small. So let's see, it's a false office supply, it's a false furniture, but it's a true technology. Let's see if I got it right. It's a little bigger. Yep, seems about right. So let's change the selection to show all of them real quick and map the rest of them. And then set them all to null to map the last one. All right. So cleaning this up just briefly, getting rid of everything else around here, and then getting rid of my worksheet background, as well as the row dividers. And call these real quick to be able to find it again. So now this is already enough for me to overwrite my selection for the sets. We're gonna get rid of the tooltips. And then another trick that I learned so many times from Jason and Ryan is a don't highlight overwrite. And that just stays on detail, but what it will help you in the end is when you make your selection, it won't highlight everything else to be white. So we're gonna set that up as well. But let's go ahead and put that on the sheet, keeping that to show it. And we will have to play around with just the sizing of these probably a little bit. That might have been lucky as well. And fit those on the entire view. Make them a little bit bigger. See if that did it already. If it is, a little bit more. That's perfect. So now there's only one step left. You'll need to set up a dashboard action to use these to overwrite your set action, which is just a basic change set values. You select your buttons, the data source, keep assign values to set on this one, and then select add values to set. Of course, select the set that we're using. We're using the category set 2, and that's it, as well as I'm going to add the don't highlight immediately. So I'm creating highlight action again on the buttons, and then I select the field. Can't see it right now, so I'm gonna have to double check real quick on here. Don't highlights here. I'm going back. Set action buttons. Oh well. Well, let me show it to you first without the highlighting so we can see that actually too. For that, I'll go into presentation mode real quick. But yeah, this is basically what it does. Cool thing that I found recently is if you click Control while clicking on another one for set actions, you can actually select multiple at the same time. So you're not losing any kind of functionality that you had with just a normal category set here. It's just a little bit more visually appealing and easy for the user. to click through. I know we're right on time, but one thing that I wanted to show before I stop is these buttons. They're super easily made in Figma. And what I just did is create like my little set of buttons here. You can just export it right through Figma here, and you can also export them in a bigger size that they are, so that you actually have a better resolution within Tableau. And those are basically my tips or tricks to do or to use other tools than just basic parameters or filters in Tableau. I know, Katie, I think you're doing QA at the end, but if you guys have any open questions, I posted my email as well as LinkedIn. Feel free to reach out anytime. I'm happy to answer any open questions later if I can, or then via email.
Awesome. Thanks, Maggie. I think you did pretty dang well for your first Tug presentation. Real quick, there was a question when you were going, let me scroll up, just if you can explain the don't highlight.
Yes. So normally, and it didn't do that for me right now, but normally when you click on the set actions, it's highlighting everything and it goes white for the other ones. And it's not very nice to look. So with the don't highlight, you can make it that it would focus on that specific field in your highlight set action, or just action in general. So you don't run into that problem where it just blurs out and makes everything white on the dashboard.
Awesome. And then the only other question I saw was about Figma, which that would be awesome to get a presenter showing us a bit of Figma sometime. It's just a way to like prototype your dashboards, right? To just play around with designs and yeah.
Yeah. And we have Jason on the call. He's our main designer. So I'm going to volunteer him.
We would love that, Jason, if you ever want to talk to the rest of the group about it. So thank you again, Maggie.
Yeah,
go ahead.
I'm just saying, yes, I'd do that. I'd love to.
Okay, awesome. Good job, guys. And Ethan, if you want to take over, we'll go ahead and jump into your presentation.
Sure. Yeah, let me share my screen here. All right. You guys see that? Wonderful. Cool. Well, thanks guys for being here. And Katie, thank you and Emil for the invite. Really love to come and talk to you guys. I think some of you guys know, but Orlando kind of has a special place in our hearts. It's where our second half lives. So Maggie's out there in Orlando. We also have our office here in Kansas City. So it's great to talk to you guys and the community out there. We love this Tug, and yeah, have some roots down there as well. So it's good to be here. I also want to thank everybody in the audience for joining us. I know it's difficult to kind of make time to attend some of these events. So I really appreciate you guys joining us today and spending the time to come and hear us present this content. It really means a lot. And hopefully it'll provide some value and some takeaways for you to implement your own work. So with that, let me go ahead and jump in. A little bit about myself. My name's Ethan Lang. I'm the Senior Manager of Analytics Engineering at Playfair Data. I'm also the co-lead of the Veterans Advocacy Tableau user group. Katie mentioned that earlier. Our group's kind of unique. It's a great place for members of the veteran community to come and network, maybe find a mentor, find a mentee. We also help out nonprofit veteran-run organizations by looking at their data and then visualizing it for them at no charge or free of cost. So it's also a great way to start building out your portfolio if you're just getting into Tableau. We have these challenges we're looking to have them quarterly moving forward. I'm also a member of the Tableau Speaker Bureau. What that is a program that Tableau created last year. And really it's just a pool of community members that Tableau can call upon to come and speak at events like maybe a Tableau user group or maybe the Tableau conference. So it's a great thing and an honor to be a part of. Let's see, let me go ahead and move into the topic at hand. So as a co-lead, I started to run across an issue, and I really wanted to develop a tool that would solve that. And what I've run into is basically we have these events and we record them, and Tableau is humble enough to actually publish our Tableau user group events on their YouTube channel. So we have all of our videos that are recorded are hosted on Tableau's YouTube channel. This tool that I've developed, I basically tapped into the YouTube API and was able to download all of the videos that are in Tableau's YouTube channel. And I've created a tool where you can hover over a date, you can select a specific date, you can see the Tableau user groups that presented that date, and you can select from that, and you can actually filter in this video and play that video right here from the tool. This is the first time I'm showcasing this publicly, so I would love to get anyone's feedback that's on the call. But I do plan on rolling this out to the entire community. I do think there's a benefit there for everyone, especially if you just want to find new cool tips, or maybe you want to look at all of the past Orlando groups. You'd be able to write from this tool to type in Orlando. It's going to filter down and show you the days that they held an event. You can click on that day and then play the video right here from the tool. So not only did I want to showcase this for the first time, but I also wanted to take you through some tactics that I employed to create it. So to start that, let me just hop out of this presenter view and dive into desktop here. So for these cards and these calendar of events, I basically, let me walk you through how to create that, and then I'll walk you through how to connect that calendar or this sheet to this other sheet using a dashboard action that's actually driving what URL is selected here in the video player. So to start with the calendar view, I'm going to open up a new sheet, and I'm going to go to date, my date dimension. I'm going to right click and hold that dimension pill to columns, and I'm going to select weekday from that list. This is going to display the weekdays across the top of this view. And the next thing I'm going to do is do the same tactic, right click and hold, move that to rows, and I'm going to select week from this drop down list. So now I have every day of the week across the top in my columns, and every week in the year displayed here on my y-axis. Now to get it filtered to a specific calendar, there is a tactic that you can implement to get an entire year's worth of dates formatted and structured in a calendar view on a single sheet. I found that it's very cool to implement, but it's hard to format. And if you're trying to come up with a custom view similar to the one I built that I just previewed, it's very unwieldy to line it up and to get some of the labels in there. So what I've opted to do is create each calendar or each month of the calendar year in a separate sheet. So to do this, I'm just going to drag date into my filter shelf, and I'm going to select this month, so October. You can see this starting to come to life here, but to kind of get some of the formatting and stuff like that in here, I'm going to drag in date to my labels, and I'm going to choose discrete day. That's going to label each cell with the day that it corresponds with. So now we have October 1st through October 31st of this month. And now I want to kind of bring it to life and really start to get in each cell representing its own kind of day. I'm going to switch the marks type to square. And I'm going to increase the size of this all the way to the top. Now, if we hover over, we can see that we've essentially lost the cells we originally started with. Now we're just left with these gigantic oversized squares. So to bring it back and to kind of draw it back into a single cell, what I'm going to do is double click into the columns shelf here and open up this pill. This is called working in the flow. I'm going to add a dimension here that's just 2 single quotes. And I'm going to do the same thing in the row shelf. And what that's doing, it's adding in a second layer, and it's breaking those cells back into individual cells, and it's kind of bringing those unwieldy squares that were kind of overlarged back into a single cell here. So now we have all of our cells, and let me go ahead and expand this a little bit so you guys can see a little better. All right, so there we are. So now I want to color it, and I want to color it by days that had a Tableau user group event and days that did not. So I've already created a calculation for that. It's called the string parameter color. And to preview with it, let me go ahead and zoom into that so you guys can see a bit better. Expand that out. So you can see it's a pretty simple calculation, but basically it's saying, looking at this Tableau user group dimension, it's saying if that Tableau user group dimension contains anything that I input into this string parameter, then it's going to return a value, a string value green. Else it's going to classify that as gray. I'm going to drop that into my colors marks card here, and you'll see it kind of come to life. Now, for the sake of time, I'm going to quickly show you some formatting tips here. I won't spend a lot of time on it, but I'm going to format this a little bit. For one, I'm going to change the font. That Tableau book font is decent, but maybe I wanted something more in my brand. Also going to change the color of it to white for all of the cells. And then I want to align this to the top right of our view. To do this in the formatting tab here, I'm going to click on this alignment tab. And for the entire pane, I'm going to select align to the right and to the top. So you can see all those numbers kind of go to the top right of the tab. So this is really starting to come to life. One thing I did notice I just lost, I colored my headers white, which on a white background, you obviously can't see that. So I'm going to right click again, go to format, and I'm going to change the header back to my navy. So you can see those kind of come back here. One other helpful hint. So we have these double quotes up here, and now they represent a layer or a dimension on our view. This creates this kind of blank space here. I'm going to right click in that blank space and unselect show header, and that's going to hide those from the view. I also think that this kind of week of day, where we have each week labeled, is unimportant to the user at the end of the day. So I'm going to hide that as well. And the last thing I'm going to do on the sheet is hide this label here at the top. So you can see it automatically applies a column label. And you can right click on that label and click hide field labels from columns. And now we have our calendar view created. I'm going to hop back over to the dashboard, and I'm going to start implementing that into the tool. So if I hop back over, I'm going to drag that sheet onto the view here. Oops, excuse me, let me flip to loading. Drag that onto the view. Go ahead, and I'm just going to drop it into this blank toolbox down here. I'm going to go ahead and switch the entire view so we take up that whole space. And now I really want to connect this to run it on a dashboard action that will filter this list of available recordings. So to do that, I'm going to go up to the top. Actually, before I do that, let me hop back into the sheet and show you some of those parameters that I'll be using. The parameter I'm running with to filter down that list of available videos is this exact date parameter. So I created it. It's a data type of date. And what I've done is I've selected list for available values. And then every time my workbook opens, it's going to filter that list of available values to whatever dates are within my date dimension. I'm going to close that. And the last thing I need to do on the sheet, there was one step that I missed. For that value to pass to the parameter, I need that value on the view. So to do that, I'm going to drag this date dimension. I'm going to right click and hold and drag it to detail. And I'm going to select date discrete from the view. What this is going to do is going to provide in the details of this view the exact date of every day. So you can see if I right click on that pill and look at our quick filters here, exact date is selected. So this is the dimension that I'm going to be passing to that parameter through the parameter action on the dashboard. So let me hop back over to the dashboard now. And before I do that, I do need to drop this on there. I'll hop back over to the dashboard. And now I'm going to set up that parameter action. To do so, I'm going to navigate to the top navigation and click on dashboard. And then from that list of options, I'm going to click on actions. So you can see I have a couple dashboard actions set up already. But to demonstrate this, I'm going to set up a brand new one. So I'm going to click on add action. And you can see when I click that option, there's some options that appear here. So these are all your different dashboard options that you can use to start playing around and incorporating interactivity within your dashboards. So I'm going to choose change parameter. From this list, it's automatically selecting every single sheet on my view as a source sheet. The only sheet that I want selected for this particular parameter action is the one we've just created. So I'm going to highlight and unselect all of those and select sheet 14, which is the one that we just created. The parameter I wanted to target is that exact date parameter that I previewed with you guys earlier. So I'm going to make that my selection here. And then for field, again, I want it to pass that date field. So I want the exact date to pass into the exact date parameter. So you can see here from my drop down, my date field is on there. I'm going to select that. Now, we also have it running on action whenever I select. You can do hover or menu, but some of those are a little bit unwieldy, especially with a view like this, where you might be moving the cursor across multiple of those. So I'm going to leave it on select, and I'm going to click OK. And then to make that come into effect, I'll click OK again. And now that dashboard action is set up and running. So you can see if I click on the 7th of October, I can click on the Veterans Advocacy Tableau user group we had. And now I can play that video directly from here. As an added bonus, I noticed when I embedded this video into the tool, it took away some of the options here. So for one, there's an option in YouTube where you can enlarge the video to take up the entire view. What happened when I added this into a web object, using these web objects down here to my Tableau dashboard, when I click that enlarge function, it doesn't allow me to do it because it's fully enlarged into that web object. It's essentially iframed in. So to add a zoom feature for the user to blow this video up, I created this zoom feature at the top where they can click. And now you can see my sheet we just laid on the view is in the way. But it's going to blow the entire video up to the entire dashboard. So you can view it right here as well. Now let me float this back. There we go. So to build that, I do want to touch on that a little bit. To get that incorporated, what I've done, it's something very similar that Maggie touched on earlier. It's a show hide feature within Tableau. But I'm going to drag this horizontal object over onto the view. And I'm going to go ahead and expand it all the way out here. So it kind of takes up this large space within the view. Seems about right. And then what I want to do is drag a web page onto that. And you'll notice it says enter a URL here. Now, because I ripped all of these URLs from from YouTube using the YouTube API, I essentially have stored all of those values in a parameter. Very similar to the exact date. It's a list of values. I'll preview that after, actually. So we have this parameters URL selection. I'm going to select that and click OK, and you'll see that kind of come to life here on the view. So there we are. Now, to make it a zoomable feature working on a button, what I'm going to do is double click onto this web object, and you'll notice that the kind of wrapping around it went from gray to this blue. That means we're actually on the object itself now, not what's in the object. So with this option, I'm going to go over here to the right, and you'll see that there's a more options tab. If I click that down arrow, it's going to bring up a list of menus here. And from that menu, I'm going to select show, or excuse me, add show and hide button. And you'll see that kind of brings out this arbitrary value onto the view. Now with this, all you have to do is click on that, and whatever's in that object just disappears off the view. So it's a great way, a great concept and feature that you can incorporate to increase the accessibility of your dashboards as well. And I thought it was very fitting for this one. Now there is one last thing that I want to cover on here, which is, I want to touch base a little bit on the Figma side of this. So like we discussed earlier, this was pretty much built in Figma. So that's how I built out all of this formatting on the view. The great thing about it is you can start incorporating, and one thing that I've found, Tableau makes it extremely easy to do just about anything in Tableau. Anybody can log in for the first time and create a bar chart. It's very intuitive. The one thing I think Tableau lacks the most on is the design aspect of the tool. So within the software, simple things like, adding a shadow box around an object or curving the edge of an object, you can't do that natively in Tableau. You can see if I bring an object into the view, it's just a rectangle. It's going to have those pointed edges. There's no design aspects that I can start incorporating right here from the interface. So to bring in some of those options, you can look to some outside software to do so. One of those is Figma, which I find very useful. It's a free software. If you go to figma.com, anybody can create an account and you can start using that software immediately. And it's very intuitive to drag in and create an object and then round the edges of it. Say if I want to create a rectangle with rounded edges and add a shadow box, it's very easy to do so. To that, I want to demonstrate a little bit of that on the fly here. So let's see if this works. So I'm going to load up my own personal Figma account. And I use Figma for quite a bit of stuff. It might be building out a dashboard. It could be creating a PowerPoint slide. There's all kinds of uses for it. But I'm going to zoom in here to the dashboard itself. You can see I've created the entire dashboard here as a wireframe in Figma. And each one of these aspects of the view is actually created on an individual tab. So you can see we have text objects here. We have some circles and stuff that I've all grouped into this one output, essentially. Let's say if I wanted to recreate this here, what I'm going to do is select a rectangle from my options up here and just drag a rectangle onto the view. And let me zoom into that. So now you can see we have this rectangle object. If I click on it, there's a couple options that appear over here to the right. This is kind of a format pane. And what I like about Figma is this format pane, it lays out very similar to what we're used to in Tableau Desktop. But there's a few other options here. So for one, if I wanted to round the edges of this rectangle, there's an option in here. It's represented by this kind of rounded edge. And let's say I wanted to just round it 16 points here. All I have to do is type in 16 and click enter. And you can see this object now has these rounded edges. If I wanted to add a shadow effect to this object, I can simply go to effects and hit the plus sign. And now I have a drop shadow. We can also change the overall color. So you can see I can change it via this. I can type in exact hex coding if I know what my branding is that I'm working with. So you can incorporate some of your own branding within your tools. Let me just take this to white. And now we have this white rectangle object with rounded edges and a shadow underneath it. Now, if I wanted to add some text, I can just click on my text here at the top. I'm going to drag that text object in and I can just type in hello. And you can see you can kind of move this text object around. If you wanted it kind of aligned to the left, you can do that. If you wanted it aligned to the center, you can just drag it around. We'll leave it at that. Now, to bring this into Tableau, it's extremely easy. You would just highlight what you've created and select group selection. So now we have one object here. It holds both my rectangle and my text object. You can see I can drag that around the screen, and now they're grouped together. To export it out, I'm just going to click export and export group. It's going to ask me where I want that to go. I'm just going to take it to this Orlando October, and I'll save that right in here. So now in Tableau Desktop, if I wanted to bring that into my view, what I can do is just click on image and drag that image object onto the view here. And then I can choose an image that I want. So again, I'm going to go to this Orlando October and choose the image we just created and click OK. And you can see it's brought that in here. So this could represent a button. It could represent a header, anything that we wanted to do within the tool. It's right here. So it's accessible to us now. We can incorporate that however we want. There's also ways that you can load these images into your Tableau desktop repository. I don't think we have time to cover that right now, but it's pretty simple. We do have a blog at Playfair on that. It's custom images in Tableau that touches on how to take this image, load it into your repository, and then you'd be able to access it as a shape within Tableau Desktop. I think that's all I wanted to cover, but I'm happy to answer any questions. And I'm also going to make this, again, this is the first time I've kind of publicly showed it. So if there is any feedback, I'd love to hear it. And then also I'll be sharing out a link to this tool in Tableau Public, probably this afternoon, to the entire community. So you'll be able to access it there from my Tableau Public also. Is there any questions? I'll stop sharing and hop in the chat.
So this is Jamil. Just wanted to say thank you, Ransom. I love it. I love it. I always wanted a tool like that because of the old user groups. I mean, if you think about it, I was looking at what week could be better to do the user group that is not that busy. Looks like Tuesdays on second week of the month, I think. But anyway, I was looking at that. That's a very good thing. It would be cool to add the time that I think I was just thinking the time that people are doing the user groups, just to select maybe a different time, or like then your user group will be more successful because then not everybody's doing the user group at the same time, same day. To give you an idea, I have like 3 user groups today. I have another one at 3. The same day. Everybody likes Thursdays, the last week of the month. But no, I love it. I love it. I think Figma, a lot of people are talking about Figma. Definitely, we need someone to give us a training on Figma or come to the user group. I was going to ask you that Zoom feature. Do you think that could be used with maps? Because I was just thinking that sometimes you have a dashboard, then the map is too small. You cannot see the map. But if you add that feature, then I can see the map because it will make it large now. I was just thinking that could be useful for that.
That Zoom feature has a lot of applications. So when we create dashboards, especially when they start becoming very complex, I've noticed that there's always, especially in business situations, we're always trying to mix like a really good dashboard and presenting all the data needed to come up with our story and to kind of tell that story that's in the data. So we're trying to balance that by also giving them enough data to make it very, very useful. What I found is we've always kind of shrunken some of the visuals, probably more than what we want to. Sure. So this Zoom feature is a great alternative for that. So for instance, if you have a dashboard and the map is just a small section of that dashboard, you could use that Zoom feature to essentially just let that map blow out across the dashboard. And now you can like really interact with the map. You can add that Zoom feature to say every visual. So if you had, like if you were looking at stock data as a great example with like small multiples, where you're looking at different tickers and stuff like that. If you wanted to zoom into one of those tickers, you could use a feature like that to zoom in and let that blow up the entire view to kind of start diving into that a little bit more focused. So yeah, it's a great feature and you can use that however you want.
That's great. Thank you. Any questions, Katie, in the chat?
I don't see questions. I see a lot of comments.
Okay. Oh, that was great. I really like it. The numbers on each month were done in Figma too, right? Like the 1, 2, 3 up to 12. I think they were done in Figma too.
That's
right?
correct. In the
Yeah.
circles on the
Circle.
card itself, those circles also have like a drop shadow effect. So I did that in Figma and incorporated that right into like the architecture of the dashboard. Yeah.
And I know you said you used the YouTube API. There was a question just about how you grab that data.
How I grabbed it.
Yeah.
So with the YouTube API, it's actually pretty easy as APIs go, I will say. If you look at the YouTube developer, there's a URL, YouTube developers, there's documentation on how to build out or connect to that API. You essentially have to create a Google account and apply for an API key, which takes about 3 seconds.
Wow.
And on that website, the YouTube developer website, it walks you through how to apply for that key. Once you have that key, really you can dive in and pull out anything from a YouTube channel. What I liked about the YouTube API that made it really simple is if you know what you're looking for, you can drag that into like a test section and you can try and sample what it will return. So you drag in the values you want, you click execute, it's going to sample what would return with those values. But on top of that, there's like a button that says show code. And as a matter of fact, it might just be easier. Let me share one more time.
Yeah, please.
And I'm going to bring up a PowerPoint. I was planning on putting it together. Let's see if this works here.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. So this is the developer documentation. So this is what it looks like. And there's this reference tab where you can start looking into what you can query from YouTube. If you click on channels and listing, you'll see these options appear. These are the parameters you can query. The ones I was specifically interested in was the content details and then the snippet. Snippet is going to bring in like, bring in values that tie into the image that they're using as like a thumbnail for that video. Content details, this is where it's going to grab the URL for that video. And then to the right of that screen, sorry, I don't have it on the fly, but to the right of that screen, there's an option where you can just select, you can bring in those parameters here. So if those were the 2 parameters I was interested in, I could just type in content details and then a comma, and then I could type in snippet.
Okay.
You can hit execute from there. And what will happen, there's actually a button that says show sample code. If you click that, it'll show you what that API call looks like in multiple languages, Python, PHP, Java, JavaScript. I think there was C URL, all kinds of different things. What I did, I used Python. I copied the sample code. And then from there, that gave me a great foundation to start building out that API. So there's a little bit more to just copying and pasting the code in. You have to find out a way, it only returns like 50 values. That channel had over 5,000 videos. So you have to find a way to kind of loop through those and add those to values to a data frame and then store those values somewhere to return to later in like a temporary table. So there's a little bit more than that, but this is a good foundation. Basically, after you get the code, you can kind of tailor it. And then this is kind of the sample output that I received that I was able to store. And you can see that embedded URL right here in the data.
Perfect.
I know that's like the 2-second version of how to build an API, but like I said, that documentation is really great. So if you just go to the YouTube developers documentation, it'll walk you through how to connect to that, how to create that account, get the API key, everything.
Excellent. Thank you. Anybody have any questions? Aaron, do you have any questions for anything today? Or Jeff? Or Kevin was also on the call. Or anybody on the chat? Katie, have any other questions?
No, I think that's it for the chat. And we are over a little bit, so we'll
Oh,
go ahead and
okay.
jump back in. But I think if anybody has questions, they can probably reach out to Maggie or Ethan directly on LinkedIn. Yep.
Perfect.
Okay, cool. And I know Ethan's on Twitter. I don't know if Maggie is. But thank you both. That was awesome and wonderful. I think we all learned a lot from
Oh,
both of
definitely.
you.
Yeah, thank you guys for having us. It's been great. And
Yeah.
thanks everybody for attending. Like I said,
Thank you.
I know your time's valuable, so we really appreciate you guys joining us today. for
And
sure.
right back at you both. Okay, so real quick, we have a couple just community announcements. If you have something you're ready to present or you want help with or things you want to learn more about, let us know. You can email us. For November, we're looking at hopefully doing a hybrid or in-person gathering of some sort, whether that's just watch some of the Tableau conference live together or meet up in the evening at some point, or an actual user group. So let us know if you want to help plan that or if you have ideas around that, or your comfort with any of that as well. Tableau conference, if you haven't heard, is next month. Book off your calendar. Hopefully you can attend or virtually attend and watch it. And then a plug for 3 at 3. Hopefully you've seen some of this. Reach out to Yamil or Aaron or look it up if you have questions.
Yep.
And we'll send out this deck. And then hot off the press, there's a couple different job postings we have. The first one is for University of Miami, looking for a Tableau rock star. So if you're looking to make a career move or maybe head down to Miami, I don't know if they do any virtual work with this position, check out the posting here. There's one for Splunk out of Orlando, a senior developer. A Tableau administrator for Genesis out of Orlando. And most of these are posted pretty recently too. And then there might be 2 for Disney. This one's a business intelligence analyst using Tableau. And then a manager level position too.
Great.
So that is it. I don't know if there's anything in the chat. Feel free to reach out and stay active online, and then hopefully we'll see you guys in person soon.
Thank you so much. And Maggie, thank you so much. Now that you're here in Orlando, we want you to be part of the talk here. Anything that you wanted to help, and more than welcome to. We're very good friends of Play for Data. Ryan has helped us for so many years. We love, all of us are fans of Ryan Sleeper and all his books and everything he have done for the community. So more than welcome, and hopefully we can see you in person soon, or maybe next year, who knows. But thank you, everyone.
I'd love to.
Yeah, me too. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys.